All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to our September Garden Talk, Flower Arranging 101. Brandie Waite will be showing us the basics of bouquet making. So I will hand it over to Brandie.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. When we were talking about garden talk topics, we were brainstorming and I thought, well, bouquet making sometimes is a popular topic and, why don't we give it a try? I have been a master gardener since 2012. I really fell in love with growing cut flowers. So I've been growing them since about 2016. And on an average year, I usually sell about 250 to 300 bouquets out of my little garden. And I'm going to let you in on a dirty secret. I love growing flowers, but I do not like arranging flowers. So I don't know if I'm really the best person to give this talk. Yeah, so there definitely is what they call the principles of floral arrangement, right? So people have been arranging flowers for hundreds of years. There's definitely different styles and formalities and techniques. If you have been interested in floral design in the past, I'm sure you've checked out some of the books that are available, and you'll see some of these, really weird illustrations in the book that they show you of there's line bouquets and mass bouquets, and you can make a C and an S and a triangle and all these kind of weird formations. So basically the mass arrangements, those big ones, are based on the European design. Think of the old school floral paintings where they're just bursting with elements. And then the line designs typically come from Japanese flower arranging style. But floral design, you can Google it and learn a ton about it free from the internet. You can check out books at the public library. There's many different styles. They used to be able to take a certificate training in floral design and floriculture. I don't know if the Buffalo Botanical Garden offers it anymore. I don't think anyone locally offers it anymore. But that was your strict training of how to make a bereavement arrangement, how to make a wedding bouquet, and all of that good stuff. So times have definitely changed. Some things have fallen out of style, some things have come back. But basically, you don't want to take your flowers and say you pick a bunch from your yard and you just have them in your hand and you cut them and you just shove them in the jar. It really wouldn't look that great, right? So you want to try to put a little effort into it. But in my opinion, it doesn't take that amount of effort. You can be as fussy as you want to be. I personally don't like to spend a lot of time doing it. So let's go over some of the supplies. So you would need a pair of sharp scissors or pruners, floral tape or Scotch tape if you want to make a grid, floral foam. In the past several years in the floral industry, especially farmer florists, has really fallen out of favor. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for your health. A lot of farmer florists are not using it at all anymore. So you can make a nice grid on top of your jar with sticky floral tape or Scotch tape. And then they've also gotten into making chicken wire balls that you can put at the bottom, and the chicken wire will help hold the stems into place. So there's different options available, but of course they do still make floral foam if you want to use it. It is nice for certain applications, especially like evergreen centerpieces and that type of thing. So then you're going to need a vase or a jar to hold your flowers, water, and of course flowers and greens. So your flower types are greens, which are a good starting point for all arrangements. The greenery helps make your bouquet feel more natural, and people sometimes stress out about the greens. I personally don't care. I a lot of times make bouquets without any greens. This one doesn't even have any greens in it at all. But some good options from your yard could be raspberry greens, especially the thornless raspberries. Sometimes in the early spring, I'll use peony foliage, holds up really nice. 9 bark, basils, the lemon or the Thai basil is really good. Eucalyptus, even hosta leaves. I'll use hosta leaves early before the snails get them. That gives like a really tropical vibe to your arrangement. And then there's a culinary herb, if you want to grow specifically for bouquets, it's called shiso. And that is it's an Asian culinary herb that is grown for cut flower foliage, and it holds up really well. It has a really nice texture, comes in different colors. There's green and purple. There's a ruffly leaf. So different options for that. Your fillers, these are the flowers that take up space in your bouquet, hence they fill it out. They also add structure to the bouquet, so they're not really the stars of the show. They're not the showstoppers, but they just add like an airiness. So you have dill, the Ami or the Dara, yarrow, blue plurum, feverfew. You could do sea oats, sea holly, just a light textural element to help fill in space. Your focals, these are the stars of the show. So these are going to be your showstoppers, what really draws your eye in. So these are going to be dahlias, roses, sunflowers. They could be zinnias, hydrangea, your fancy flowers, lisianthus. The accents are your smaller flowers. Sometimes they're spikes like your snapdragons. And they add whimsy, height, and texture to your arrangement. So you can do celosia, cosmos, ageratum, gomphrena, scabiosa, nigella, some grasses. And if you have like smaller flowers that you want to cluster together, like you can group, a few, like 3 small ones together and then kind of like place them around the bouquet. Color. So you do also want to try to think about a color scheme. Sometimes it just comes together naturally depending on what you have. I wouldn't stress a lot about it, but if you do want to plan for growing bouquets to give away or to have in your home, you can think about having a color scheme. So complementary are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So green and red or purple and yellow. And then analogous is colors, like 2 or 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And monochromatic is all of the same color. So this is one of my favorite color palettes. I guess it would be analogous because it's like the purple, the magenta, some of the red, and then up to yellow and orange. And I just really love this. It's like just hot colors and vibrant. And this is usually one of my favorite like late summer color schemes. And different seasons, you might want to have different color schemes. I usually try to grow these snapdragons. They're apple blossoms, so they have the light pink and the white. Those are really good in the early spring, just has more of that pastel color tone, but it does fit in for summer too. Shape. So you do want to try to add some shape to your arrangement. You also want to think about how the arrangement is going to be viewed. Is it going to be viewed from all sides, or is it going to be viewed from one side? This is typically my bathroom vanity jar, and so I arrange it so it's only viewed from one side. You're not viewing it in the round. This side is usually up against the wall. And you can get super fancy and try to follow some of those shapes in a Principle of Floral Design book. Or you can just try to give it a little structure with making sure that that some of the flowers aren't hidden. So you have some height, you have some medium, you have some low. Or if you wanted to try to make like a pyramid, you'd have the taller stuff in the center and kind of work downwards. These are my tulips, my tulip bathroom display. And again, even if it's the same flower, same type of flower, you want to arrange those stems so that they're at different heights, so each flower has its own display. Construction. So there are two methods. You can either make a bouquet in your hand, which is how I typically like to do it. I usually like to just arrange in my hand. And then I love to work with regular mouth quart jars. I kind of just eyeball my height. I trim it to height, and then it usually will just stay kind of how I had it arranged in my hand. You could tape it too if you wanted to before you cut it and stick it in there. Or if you wanted to add a little bit more design work in your heights and stuff, you could make a grid on top of the container with floral tape or scotch tape, and that helps kind of keep your stems in place. And if you're working with the grid, you want to start by filling in the base with greenery, and then you can, you could add probably your height and then fill in from there. When I'm arranging in my hand, which I'll show you guys, I usually just start with 3 stems, and then you keep turning the arrangement as you're making it, adding in your elements, and then I usually finish it with the greens, or like what would be the greens, and have those on the outside so it like finishes it. So general design tips. Odd numbers are pleasing to the eye. So we usually work in 3s, 5s, sometimes I do 7 or 1, 1 showstopper. And you only really need 5 to 7 ingredients per bouquet. If that, you would be really surprised at how pretty a 3 ingredient bouquet can be. Lately, I've been making just bouquets with snapdragons, this wheat celosia, and this ageratum, and it's just really simple, really nice, 3 ingredients. And even a bouquet of just single flowers, a dozen snapdragons put together, try to form that pyramid shape, that in a vase is really pleasing too. So don't overthink it on ingredients, because you can really overdo it, and when you add too many elements, then the bouquet just becomes too busy and it looks overstuffed and you don't even really know where to look. Don't stress about greenery. Again, sometimes I don't even use it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Obviously, if you want to follow the principles of floral design, they encourage greenery. And then, like I said, when you're building a bouquet in your hand, usually start with 3 stems. Like I would start with like the 3 snapdragons, then I would add in a filler item as I'm turning, then I would add in my focals, and then I usually end with my greenery on the outside. If you're using the grid, you start with the greens first to build that base and fill out that bottom. And then you place the bouquet out of direct sunlight. They don't really like to be in direct sun, especially in the summer. And if you recut the stems and change the water every 2 to 3 days, you'll definitely get a lot more life out of your bouquet. So that is like the down and dirty, bare basics of bouquet making.